Joined now by the great Tim Watts of BamaOnline. And Tim, it's time to calm everybody down. The last time we talked to you, the world was going to hell in a handbasket. Nick Saban had retired. Seemingly every Alabama player was entering the portal. All hell was breaking loose. But now that we're a couple weeks removed from Nick Saban retiring, Kalen DeBoer's been on the job a week and a half. How's everybody feeling in Tuscaloosa?
I think the Caden Proctor and Caleb Downs hitting the portal was kind of like the point where they said, all right, it is what it is. Both of them went into the portal. Their worst nightmares were kind of coming to realization. They thought Caleb Downs was going to Georgia. Alabama had their defensive back coach, T-Rob, go there. So there's a lot of conspiracies connecting them. Caden Proctor, who we had said many times was homesick, even during the season, they thought he was going to be an NIL guy. We heard a lot of Ohio State talk. So I think that when those kids made their decision, when Caleb went to Ohio State, Proctor went back home to Iowa, I think it alleviated a little bit because, it's not good you lose those players, but it's also not the conspiracy that you're seeing. Also, it's slowed down since then. Alabama got a quarterback, Austin Mack, which really set off another. Alabama fans have just been on a roller coaster where you get Austin Mack. They don't really know who he is. And we took a lot of time digging to help figure out who he is. And he's a very promising prospect by all accounts.
Well, he was the guy Kalen DeBoer signed at Washington, who was with them at Washington last year. And that's the part with the Julian Sayin thing, that when Julian Sayin enters the portal, it was not a coincidence. It was the morning after Austin Mack committed to Alabama.
Yeah, I would think that Alabama told them the night before what was going to happen. And Austin Mack, again, we've said this, he's 17 years old right now. He's going to be 18 in June. It's absurd. He could be a high school senior. That's not unheard of for a high school senior to spend his senior year at 18 years old. But he's going to be into his second year of college by then. But, yeah, that was a domino. Austin Mack, they've got a lot of faith in him. They like him. And if you just watch him and learn about him, he's you see him. On the recruiting visit this weekend, they had 6 official visitors. He was one of them, even though he was committed. Dude, he is a foot taller than seemingly everybody. And, we're talking about some pretty nice-sized kids. Jalen Milrose, 6'2", Ty Simpson, 6'1", are in that range. This guy looks humongous. Almost looks like the movie Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger standing by Danny DeVito. He is a good 4 or 5 inches taller, and he's big. He's got big features. So they got that commitment once you got them settled down and knew what they were getting. Their worst fear when you took it, though, was exactly Julian Sayin leaving. So Friday morning when he left, I think that kind of kicked it off. And then you have to walk and talk yourself through it. Big visitor weekend. He's starting to answer. At one point, there was a lot more questions than answers. So we're slowly but surely seeing those answers so it's easier to understand. And I think that's been a big part of calming Alabama fans' nerves.
Yeah, and the Downs and the Proctor things were also, if you address them individually, I think you're right. If Downs had gone to Georgia, then it really plays into everybody's fear. Okay, they hire Travaris Robinson away. He might be grabbing all these guys that he helped bring to Alabama. But Downs ends up going to Ohio State, which actually finished second the first time around. And the factor that sent Downs to Tuscaloosa initially was Nick Saban. So that made sense. Proctor going home makes sense because that's obviously not usually the offense you're going to pick if it's NIL based or it's NFL based. Though Iowa has produced some good offensive linemen, but given where they are now, it's a little bit tough. So that does all make more sense. Let's talk about that visit weekend because some guys that are in this class. Ryan Williams, basically last unsigned 5-star.
It's a big one. Yeah, it's a big one. And, he's committed to Alabama for a long time. Auburn, and, he named his school. There's nowhere in the country Ryan couldn't go to college. Shows up at Alabama. And I tell you what, preceding him on his official visit, because he decommitted right away, he had an out to eliminate Alabama. He had the out. Nick Saban's gone. A lot of the staff is gone. Travaris Robinson's gone. Hallman Wiggins is gone. Tommy Reese is gone. A lot of the guys that he dealt with there. So he had an out if he wanted to take an out. But instead, on Monday, Ryan shows up in Tuscaloosa to hang out. We broke that news on the roundtable and on BOL. And then we look up and he is hanging out with Jalen Mbakwe, who's one of his best friends, the 5-star signee from Clay Chalkville, Middle of the week, the Alabama staff goes down and sees him again. And then he comes for an official visit, brought a lot of people close to him. So he got a full week's worth of getting to know this staff. And, he did an interview with AL.com. The guy, I think Alabama's very much in this. It's always seemed like that was a special place to him. He's always wearing Alabama gear, even in his pictures that he showed from his visit. It showed a picture of him with an autographed ball when he was a kid. So obviously a humongous target for 50 reasons, 5-star in-state, but also the dude is extremely talented. And you're looking at a guy that, and Kalen DeBoer and Grubb, who love the route running. Jamarcus Shepard's known for his route running ability, and there's nothing on that route tree that Ryan Williams can't run. So it's more than just, the visual, but that plays in because the kid's extremely talented.
Well, and I would imagine that DeBoer and Grubb can show a receiver prospect like Ryan Williams, hey, here's Roma Dunze, here's Jalen Polk, here's Jalen McMillan, here's what we do with really good receivers. Here's how that looks. And that, because everybody's saying, oh, these guys don't know, they don't know the area, they don't know. But what they put on film the last 2 years, especially with quarterbacks and receivers, would probably be fairly enticing.
And they also brought in Jeremy Bernard, who was the number 4 wide receiver on that Washington team, behind 3 extremely talented wide receivers. Still a guy that, you can see his clips, very talented. He's able to come in and also explain what they're going to do. He committed while he was on his visit. He was one of the 6 official visitors. So, yeah, you put that on tape, you show them what you can do. And also the thing that really helped Alabama in the South is that Washington, if they aren't in the playoffs, I'm not sure a lot of these Southern kids have actually seen them. Different schedule, late night games and all that. But they saw them in those 2 games against Texas, and they saw them against Michigan. So they've got some kind of feel for exactly what they can do and everything else. So it's not like they were going in blind to them like they probably would have been had they not been in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once they beat Texas, and lots of people watch that game, but also then you get wall-to-wall Washington offensive highlights for a week going into the national championship game. So if you hadn't been exposed to them, all you had to do was flick on ESPN and you were going to see them over and over again. So that probably does help, at least, give those guys an idea of what they're looking at. But also, I thought it was interesting. I was looking at BamaOnline, and on your message boards, you guys have the updated scholarship chart that you keep, consistently updating every time something changes. And when you look at it, just all the names, it feels a lot more calmed down than maybe it seems, because I don't know that there are many other programs that have that level of talent still on the roster.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people were really excited to see Alabama lose everybody and lose all their talent. That hasn't been the case. I think 9 guys have hit the portal since Nick Saban retired. Everybody else is pretty much expected during the first go-round. I don't think there was a lot of surprise. And to be honest, Alabama had to lose guys in the first portal window because they had to clear room for guys that wanted to play elsewhere so they could be at, on the number 85 and get down to that scholarship number. So they have a really good team if you look at it. I mean, we've discussed this before, and I think it's a debatable point, but how many teams would not swap their roster for Alabama's where it sits right now, not even counting possible getting Ryan Williams or Jabbar Muhammad, who's looking at Alabama, Oregon, and Texas, just where it sits now. How many teams have an A to Z better roster? There's certainly guys like Texas, Ohio State did a good job, Georgia. Those guys have got really good staffs.
That's probably it, though. The 3 you just named. I think that's the only ones that would say we'll keep ours instead. If you offered to trade, those are the only 3 that'll say we'll keep ours.
Yeah, they've had really good recruiting classes the last 3 or 4 years, have a lot of talent, had another one this year. All 3 of those did well. Texas hit the portal, did a good job in the portal, and Georgia got the running back from Florida. So they've all got talent. Ohio State closed out well with their portal run and, everything they did and, with the transfers. So, yeah, those are 3. Others might argue, but I think you could argue right back that Alabama's roster is better than them. And that's not even counting if you could get a Ryan Williams and a Jabbar Muhammad. Again, that makes the roster much better right out of the gate. And then you've got that spring portal period. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Alabama, again, has a 1, 2, 3, 4 top 5 roster when you come out of April and that portal window closes again.
Well, that was interesting. Like hearing Tyler Booker, the offensive lineman, he went on the next round live with our friends Ryan and Jim and Lance, and was pretty unequivocal about it. Like, hey, don't even be calling me if you're a coach of another team. And it's funny because obviously we're in the man bites dog business. Like we talk about the things that are unusual, but the dog bites man situation, and like there's a lot more dog bites man going on that roster than man bites dog. Like most of those guys are staying.
Yeah, I think that was big for him. Obviously, I think when you saw the initial flood of guys that went in, Amari Niblack, Isaiah Bond, those were guys that they were halfway out the door to begin with. I mean, I know there were some heavy discussions with NIL, the first portal go round, which is odd because they were never in the portal to have all these heated comments. And you go back to that Proctor just went, some poor guy interviewed Proctor, and he just said, yeah, I was in contact with me the whole year. I'm not sure what's going to become of that. So I think we got some obvious tampering going on because Booker said it too. He had coaches reaching out to him and contacting him. So what's eventually going to happen is some school is going to send, screenshot a text and send it somewhere out in the public. And, you got to be quite the deal rod to be a coach and text these players. But I know it is happening.
Oh, so, it was happening before the transfer rules changed.
Tim, that's smart. I mean, you cannot be directly contacting. You got to be the dumbest human being on earth to just think that's a safe move.
The next time they actually punish somebody for the tampering will be the first. So
yeah, that's true.
As my friend Max Olson at the Athletic always puts it, they don't want to enforce the tampering rules because coaches would all like to reserve the right to tamper.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, you got Michigan possibly opening up here, another 30-day portal window. I don't know about you, but the 30 days is absurd to me. 30 days is 1/12 of the year. That's, I told Travis Reier on our BOL podcast, I said, that's like you get 30 days for your third shoplifting. You go to that's a short time in the county jail. So, I think that's too long. And then Bama's still in that 16, 17-day window. If Michigan's opens up, we're going to go through another 30 days. So just a lot happening with the way they've got this calendar set up.
It will be interesting to meet him to see if Michigan's different because they're deeper into their class schedule than Alabama was.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'm not sure how easy it is going to be to go somewhere right now. Mm-hmm. Like Alabama, you had to, even though you had 30 days, you really had to get in there in the first couple days if you wanted to go to another school and be there for spring practice. I don't know if Michigan opens. I don't know how that works. Like
I would think the talk is that they're handing it to the offensive coordinator, right? Sharon. So if they do that,
Sharon Moore is probably the guy getting it if Harbaugh leaves. So I imagine that calms it down too.
Well, that would be the move because surely he's been working these guys. First of all, they're familiar with him. And that's kind of what happened with the Alabama when you had the whole coaching staff, basically, you don't know if they're being retained. So in essence, they're in limbo. You have them not knowing. So these kids that were recruited, you look at Caleb Downs, I tell people, and I'm not going to be harsh on anybody that wants to hit the portal or do whatever they need to do. But Caleb Downs lost Charles Kelly. Pete Golding was in the recruiting process at one time for him. He lost Charles Kelly, he lost T-Rob, he lost Kevin Steele, and he lost Nick Saban. I mean, basically everybody kind of associated with Caleb, was gone. So I can kind of see his angle that maybe he wanted to try somewhere else and get out of the South. I did find it interesting. Georgia was so prevalent to be the leader when, like you said, they finished second. Ohio State finished second. We don't even know Georgia finished third because the question was, who did Alabama beat? And he said they beat Ohio State. So we knew the 1-2. We don't even know where that's sat. Yeah. But, I mean, just, tough decisions for kids, having to make them quick. So all of it's very interesting.
Yeah. And so now you get to see as the first, 2025 offers go out from the Alabama staff, how the staff is going to work. Is there any noticeable difference yet, or do we have to wait and see how this process shakes out between now and say June and July when they start taking a lot of commitments?
Yeah, I think you're still in the almost the honeymoon phase. I mean, you're still figuring out who to offer. They were in state and went down and saw Micah DeBose, a big time 25 offensive lineman. They offered some wide, some quarterbacks. They offered Juju Lewis, the big time guy from Georgia that's committed to USC. They offered the Deuce kid, McKnight, who's committed to Notre Dame. So they got some quarterback offers out pretty quick. Casey Lacey, the Saraland quarterback, came down for an unofficial visit while Ryan was on campus. So I think they let it be known early on to the quarterbacks they got a type and what they want to look at. But I still think they're in the evaluation process, right? I mean, they're having to get on the road, and they're going to be on the road from the morning till the night. We've seen Kalen DeBoer has been very active, but they're going to be on the road morning to night. So at some point, they're going to have to evaluate and break down the film because they won't necessarily like the same players that Nick Saban and his staff liked. There could be different guys, and that goes down to the guys that decommitted. The underclassmen who were committed, everybody was kind of like, they haven't contacted them yet. Well, they weren't very familiar with them. That's for one thing. And it's not for sure. It'd be rare that the new staff would like everybody the old staff liked. That would be a rarity.
It would be, but it does seem like with the quarterbacks, you have to get out there quick. But
for sure,
quarterback recruiting is also nationwide anyway. So I'm guessing Kalen DeBoer already had a fairly broad 2025 quarterback board, even at Washington.
Yeah, but the top guys are all committed. You start looking at the commitment list. You got Underwood to LSU, Judu to USC, George McIntyre committed. Monday, taking a quick glance, the top 6 guys are already committed, along with number 8 and number 10. So 8 of the top 10 quarterbacks are already committed. Now, it's not locked in stone, but quarterback's usually the position that we've seen hold on the strongest to their commitments, even though Dylan Raiola did flip from Georgia to Nebraska. But for the most part, most of them kind of hold the course. But, man, it's early, and dominoes are moving around, and, musical chairs are being played. So, but, yeah, you want to get out, let them see you're on the radar, and just kind of push and, let them know what you're about.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting next few months. Kalen DeBoer does not strike me as the kind of guy who's going to do anything rash or wild in those first few months, but it does feel like things have settled. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.